Mountains, Earth's majestic sentinels, are not just about breathtaking vistas. They're treasure troves of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. From ancient treasures and lost cities to hidden temples, join us as we journey from the rugged trails of Nepal to the snowy peaks of Russia and beyond, uncovering 20 of the strangest and most astonishing discoveries ever made on mountains. Number 20. Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Situated inside the Cheyenne Mountain in the southwest corner of Colorado Springs is a secret bunker straight out of a James Bond movie. This is the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, the most secure facility in the world. The idea for this complex came during the late 1950s when the Cold War was at its peak and the threat of nuclear warfare was at an all-time high. The facility was built to serve as a secret base of operation for the Air Force Space Command with NORAD and the United States Northern Command. It became fully functional as the North American Aerospace Defense Command Combat Operations Center on February 6, 1967, and since then it has remained one of the most fascinating structures ever built by America. Here are a couple of things you may not know about this complex. First, it is located under 2,000 feet of granite, which protects it from every form of attack imaginable. The facility also had 6 tunnels, with each standing at about 3 stories tall. There is a blast door 3.5 feet thick, which closes within just 45 seconds after a full shutdown is activated. And going by the resources in the facility, the residents can survive for months without help from the outside world. Between 350 to 600 people work at this facility every day, so it is more of a small town than a simple military base. If the world was ever crushed by a nuclear attack, this could be one of the many military bunkers housing the only possible survivors. Number 19. The Treasure Cave of Machu Picchu. The fortress city of Machu Picchu is one of the most enchanting discoveries ever made in Peru. This city on a rock was first discovered in 1911 by American historian and explorer Hiram Bingham. Since then, several fascinating discoveries have been made here. Perhaps the most exciting of these findings was the secret door discovered in 2010. It was French engineer Thierry Jamin who first noticed this bricked-up door in the urban section of Machu Picchu. Excited to find out what mysteries were lurking behind those doors, Jamin reached out to French explorer David Crespi to come check it out. Crespi then brought with him special equipment that used infrared rays to scan through thick stones, so they could at least know what was hidden behind that stone door. When they finally scanned it, what they discovered was quite shocking. Crespi and Jamin had located a special mausoleum which could be accessed by a staircase that started right from that door. It was believed to be the final resting place of Pitaku, the Incan ruler, who commanded the construction of Machu Picchu. However, the cherry on top was that they also discovered a hoard of precious metals within the mausoleum. Now their excitement couldn't be contained. Without wasting time, Crespi and Jamin sent papers requesting permission to remove the stones covering the door and check out whatever was within the cave. Unfortunately, though, their request was denied. The authorities of Machu Picchu claimed that removing the stones would compromise the integrity of the whole structure, which meant that everything could collapse, and since they weren't ready to take that kind of risk, the excavation was shut down. Number 18. Mountaintop Buddhist Temple. One of the most incredible natural structures in China is this breathtaking mountain known as Mount Fanjing, located in the eastern Guizhou province of China. Mount Fanjing stretches some 8,400 feet above sea level, and you will find it completely draped in dense forest, home to fir trees and Guizhou golden monkeys. At the top of this lone standing structure, you will find a Buddhist temple that defies all logic. The Buddhists have long held the mountain as a sacred and tranquil site beginning in the Tang dynasty. As the Tang dynasty made way for the Ming dynasty, 48 Buddhist temples were built on this mountain, and monks who sought a new level of enlightenment would risk the journey up the intimidating mountain, ascending both in the physical and the spiritual realm. Unfortunately, though, many of these temples have long been destroyed, but in 2010 the history of this mountain was revived. It was at this time that the government opened the Fanjingshan Buddhist Cultural Park, featuring a golden hall that houses one of the largest gold statues in the world, a 16-feet-long statue of the Maitreya Buddha. Number 17. Gold Mountain in the Congo. Back in February 2021, the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo were thrown into a massive frenzy after a mountain made of gold was discovered in the remote village of Luhi in the South Kivu province. Nobody knows how exactly the villagers were able to identify this treasure mountain, but the moment everyone got to know about it, the place became flooded with people using simple tools. Dozens of villagers extracted the soil from the mountain, then they took them to their homes in order to wash the dirt off and extract the gold. News of this discovery surfaced online after a freelance journalist known as Ahmed Al-Gaba posted a video of the villagers digging for gold. Unfortunately, though, the video also attracted the attention of the government, who became scared that the natural resources could be exploited by illegal miners. But when you've got a whole mountain made up of 60 to 70% gold, it might take a while before it's all gone. Regardless of this fact, though, the government still banned mining in the region, although a couple of people continue to troop to the mountain in an attempt to make a quick buck for themselves. Number 16. Great Pyramid of Chalula. In the ancient city of Puebla in Mexico, a huge mountain has dominated the landscape for centuries, or at least people thought it was a mountain when in reality it is so much more. You see, when Spanish explorer Hernán Cortés landed in the ancient city, he took it with an iron grip, plundering it till there was almost no one left to fight him. Then he built a church on top of this mountain, a church that is still there till today. Unknown to everyone, the mountain was actually hiding the largest pyramid in the world. Forget the Great Pyramid of Giza, this is way bigger. For size comparison, the pyramid in Egypt measures a little over 755 feet at the base with an original height of 481 feet tall, but the Great Pyramid of Chalula measures a staggering 1,476 feet at the base. Although the Pyramid of Giza is noticeably taller, the sheer size of the Chalula pyramid swallows the Egyptian monument effortlessly. However, the whole pyramid was made from mud, so over time it became overgrown with vegetation. Historians believe the construction took centuries to complete, with each generation adding its own flair and architectural style to the monument. Today, it is recognized as the world's largest pyramid, a monument so enormous it was mistaken for a mountain. Number 15. Naat Hills. This mountain pass, located in the Western Ghats range between the Konkan coast and the ancient town of Junur in India, is one of the most dangerous mountain routes in the world. Back in ancient times, this trading route was used around 170 BC during the reign of the Satavahana, as it connected the Konkan coast communities with the Deccan Plateau. Many merchants were forced to travel through this path with their elephants and donkeys loaded with goods and treasures, even though the journey was quite dangerous. The name Naat translates to coin pass, and it was given because this path served as a toll booth to collect tolls from traders trying to cross the hill. Since the traffic here was always thick, it did not take long for buildings to start springing up within the mountains itself to provide shelter and accommodation for the weary travelers. Shrewd businessmen built inns in the caves, many of which remain intact till today. The site also contains many of India's oldest inscriptions dating back to the 2nd and 1st century BC. These inscriptions, most of which are religious, linked the Vedic and Hindu deities, which further proves that the ancient Indians continued to practice their traditional religions even after the emergence of Hinduism. Number 14. LaBella Rock Churches. Located in the mountainous region of Ethiopia, some 400 miles from Addis Ababa, you will find 11 magnificent structures that were handcrafted into the rocks hundreds of years ago. The history of this place takes us back to the 12th century during the Zagwe dynasty, when the whole empire was under the rule of King Gevra. Around this period, a lot of Christians faced persecution from the Muslims, which halted the Christian pilgrimages to the Holy Land of Jerusalem. To remedy the situation, King LaBella decided to create a new Jerusalem right within his kingdom, and this was the birth of a project so meticulously done that it continues to astound both historians and modern architects. Unlike other structures around the world, which are usually built with rocks, these ones were actually carved from the rock. This means every single building on this site is a monolith crafted from a single stone. Of the 11 churches, though 7 still share a wall with the rock they were cut out from, while the remaining 4 are freestanding. These massive structures cover an area measuring 62 acres, and the largest of them stands at over 8,000 feet tall, which is about 4 stories tall. With patience and serious attention to details, the craftsmen who worked on these 11 churches ensured that no 2 buildings looked the same, even though they all featured the same design taste. However, this was no easy feat. The intricate design was achieved by 24 years of hard labor, and today it's safe to say it was absolutely worth it. Today, the churches are under the care of the Ethiopian Orthodox Christian Church, who help preserve its history and legacy. Number 13. Aramu Muru. Hidden deep in the alluring mountains of Peru is an interdimensional portal etched into a rock. This portal supposedly allowed the ancient Inca priests to travel anywhere in the Inca kingdom or elsewhere around the earth, or so the legend says. For most people, though, this gate, known as Aramu Muru or Hayu Marka, which is translated as the door, is just another massive man-made edifice located some 21 miles from the city of Puno in the south area of the district of Alav in the province of Callao. This enigmatic portal had the shape of a square with each side measuring 23 feet. There is also a T-shape measuring 6 feet and 6 inches etched into it, which many claim looks like a keyhole. But as visually stunning as this monument is, the legend behind it is even more intriguing. According to the epic tales told by locals, when the Spanish conquistadors first arrived in the Inca Empire, there was a priest named Aramu Muru who belonged to the Monastery of the Seven Rays and was responsible for the initiation ceremony and worship of the Inti, the Inca god of the sun. Legend says that Aramu Muru was the one who took the golden solar disk kept in the Sun Temple in Cusco and fled from the Spanish warriors to someplace safe in the Juli province where Lake Titicaca flows. Then he reached the sacred door and placed the solar disk on the door using it as a key. The door opened and he crossed through the portal before it disappeared behind him. This is the legend of Aramu Muru. Today, locals still revere this place as a sacred and spiritual site, and they still carry out rituals of all kinds to the door of Aramu Muru. Number 12. Hanging Coffins of Sagada. Nestled in the heart of Sagada, a small municipality in the Philippines, is a mountainous spectacle unlike anything you have ever seen. You see, the Ibaloi and Kankanaey people who live in the area have a century-old custom for preserving their dead. Instead of burying them in the ground like everybody else, they place the remains in coffins and then hang those coffins on the mountainside. It is a tradition that is so cryptic and mysterious, rooted in both practicality and spirituality. According to the beliefs of these tribes, these hanging coffins protect their dead from wild animals while also helping the departed ascend to life by positioning them as close to heaven as possible. In 2015, archaeologists made a shocking discovery: 131 hanging coffins concealed within caves perched on a cliff 330 feet high. Through carbon dating, it was determined that the coffins were around 1,200 years old. However, one mystery no one has been able to solve is how these ancient inhabitants were able to hoist those coffins without any modern equipment. Number 11. Mount Annapurna. Mountain climbing is one of the most dangerous sports ever created, and every climber understands the risks associated with the activity. While every mountain carries a degree of danger, some are more deadly than others. Mount Annapurna in Nepal stands supreme. Although it isn't as tall as Everest, the 26,000-foot Annapurna boasts a higher death rate. As a matter of fact, out of 158 people who have tried to climb this mountain, 58 of them never make it through the journey. Rugged crossings, avalanches, and terrible weather conditions make this a death trap, but in spite of the obvious dangers, an unending stream of thrill seekers continue to troop to the mountain in search for an adrenaline rush. Today, Annapurna is littered with unclaimed remains of brave climbers who dared to surmount the world's most dangerous mountain but failed, and the allure of danger continues to attract dozens of adventurers every single year. Number 10. 1,700-year-old Roman Sandal. In the fall of 2019, a hiker was traversing the rugged terrains of the Jotunheimen Mountains in southern Norway when something in the melting snow caught his eye. As he ventured closer, he noticed the intriguing object may actually be an ancient artifact, so he called in a couple of archaeologists he knew to come check it out. A team of researchers from an organization known as Secrets of the Ice soon identified the mysterious object as a leather sandal from 1700 years ago, which was around 300 AD. While finding a shoe in the melting ice was not a unique discovery, this particular one turned out to be the oldest they have ever found. But how did a Roman sandal make it to the snowy mountains of Norway? More importantly, how did the owner of this sandal survive the bitter conditions of this place without proper foot covering, considering the climatic conditions of the Jotunheimen Mountains? Archaeologists believe that whoever wore these sandals must have padded them with scraps of fabrics or animal skin, or they would have suffered serious frostbites. Judging by the condition the Roman sandal was found in, the researchers also suspected that the sandal was not lost by a doomed hiker. Instead, it was probably discarded after becoming worn out or damaged. Number 9. Rock of Guaapi. At first glance, this might look like a mountain, but in reality, it is just a 10-million-ton rock known as La Piedra del Pinol, or the Rock of Guaapi. This incredible monument is located near the border between Guaapi and El Pinol in Antioquia, Colombia, rising over 656 feet above the surrounding plains. The Rock of Guaapi can be easily seen from a distance. The surface of the rock is almost entirely smooth, with one long crack running top to bottom on one of the faces. Over the years, a staircase with 649 steps has been incorporated into the rock, giving the appearance of a giant stitch holding the split rock together. Now, about that inscription on one side of the rock, there is a pretty interesting story behind it. You see, once upon a time, the people of Guaapi decided to brand the rock with the name of the town, but while the project was underway, the residents of El Pinal, who also claimed the rock as their property, started protesting against the painting. It did not take long for a mob to form, and the work was halted, but not before the G and the first stroke of U had already been written. Number 8. Dashka Stone. As impossible as this may sound, what you are looking at is the map of Siberia as it was 3,000 years ago, etched on a stone piece known as the Dashka Stone. Not only is this Dashka stone a piece of ancient ingenuity, but it is also our time machine to the era when this planet looked a whole lot different than it does now. It was on July 21, 1999, when this stone slab was first discovered by archaeologists from the Bashkir State University, who were exploring the areas of eastern Russia. The explorers were instantly stunned by the size of the stone map, measuring 58 inches high, 42 inches wide, and 6 inches thick. The archaeologists also noticed that the stone appeared to show a highly accurate topographical map of Bashkortostan, a special area of the Ural Mountains. It was such an astonishing find, and many people could not wrap their heads around how such intricate work could have been done without the use of modern cartography tools. However, what is even more astounding is the fact that a couple of really old shells were found within the stone. The first was a Navahops amuni, which was determined to be over 500 million years old. The second shell, Eulophus prps, was also determined to be over 120 million years old. So how did these ancient shells find their way into a stone map made 3,000 years ago? Nobody has really cracked that history yet. Number 7. Curtiss C-46. Back in 1945, a C-46 military aircraft from World War II was traveling from Kunming in southern China carrying 13 passengers. But as they flew over the mountainous stretch of Arunachal Pradesh, the plane got swallowed up by bad weather and mysteriously disappeared. Although a search party was sent out to locate the plane, the mission was eventually canceled due to the precarious nature of the terrain. So for 77 years, the story of the Curtiss C-46 transport aircraft remained an urban legend with no backing evidence. That was until 2022, when an American adventurer named Clayton Cools organized an extensive expedition to locate the wreckage of the plane. The mission was daring, as the mountain was notorious for claiming the lives of the explorers who dared to conquer it. Back in 2018, a group of 3 Lisu hunters died of hypothermia while trying to cross the mountain, so Cools and his team knew this could very much be their last mission. But the brave adventurer was not fazed by these challenges, and after searching for weeks, they finally came upon the wreckage of the C-46 buried in the thick snow on the mountaintop. Mysteriously, though, no human remains were ever found within or around the crash site, raising the question of where the bodies of the 13 passengers and crew ended up. It is safe to say that part of the mystery may never be solved. Number 6. Castle Kappenstein. This mysterious structure etched on the side of a Swiss mountain is one of the most enchanting cave castles you will ever see. Nobody knows how it was built, and all records of its construction have either been lost to time or they never existed at all. Deep in the municipality of Waltensburg, viewers, in Switzerland, you will find the ruins of what was once a fortress for a count known as Count Kappenstein. Apparently, this strange castle sitting on an overhanging rock shelf was built as a defensive residence for the Count and his family. Constructed during a time of war and crisis, the cave castle was meant to serve as a hiding place for the Count. However, accessing the building is a precarious journey on its own. The only way to get to the castle gate is by taking a dangerous journey through the narrowest side of the mountain, which did not even have a guardrail until recently. This path led to the basement of what was originally a 3-story structure with remnants of beam holes and windows with seating niches. Inside the cave castle, you will also find living quarters, a kitchen, and storerooms. However, it is not certain whether this fort really protected its landlords, as the name Kappenstein soon disappeared from the history books after it was built, which means they were most likely wiped out by their enemies. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Scientists were speechless when they stumbled upon massive structures breaking through the icy landscapes of Antarctica. In 1958, a group of Russian scientists ventured across the coldest place on Earth, the immense Antarctic ice sheet, and what they found was astounding: a giant craggy mountain range entirely hidden under the ice. The origins of these buried giants remain a mystery, but some speculate this could be the largest mountain range on our planet. Even if that claim is up for debate, it still stands as the least understood mountain ever found, which seems quite fitting. What are your thoughts on this remarkable find? Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive back into the video. Number 5. Ancient sacrifice to Zeus. In another captivating discovery, scientists have uncovered what appears to be the skeleton of a teenager sacrificed to the Greek god Zeus some 3,000 years ago. This haunting scene was excavated back in 2016 on Mount Lycaon in Athens, Greece, a place once worshipped as the birthplace of Zeus. Remains of the adolescent boy were found carefully concealed in a 100 feet broad ash altar next to a man-made stone platform. Archaeologists determined that the boy must have been an adolescent, and many believe he was chosen as a human sacrifice to appease the ancient Greek god. For many centuries, the remote Mount Lycaon has been associated with nefarious cult activities, with reports of human sacrifices and other occult practices. Legend says the boy was sacrificed with animals on this same altar, and all his meat was cooked and eaten together. Whoever partook of this feast would then transform into a wolf for 9 years. But even though the stories have lingered for years, no actual evidence of these sacrifices had been unearthed until now. Thankfully, we can finally get a glimpse into the practices of the ancient Greeks who lived in this region thousands of years ago. Number 4. Dietlov Pass Incident. The tragic tales of the Dietlov Pass incident is a confounding mystery that has continued to puzzle archaeologists and historians for decades. The story goes something like this. On February 2, 1959, 9 experienced hikers led by a 23-year-old student named Igor Dietlov embarked on a trip to the Ural Mountains of western Russia. One night during the trip, the crew decided to set up camp at a pass now known as Dietlov Pass. But unfortunately, an avalanche was triggered overnight and all the hikers lost their lives. Now this is where things get interesting. While it was not exactly strange for hikers to meet an unfortunate end on this terrifying trail, this was not your usual kind of incident. You see, when the bodies were found after weeks of searching, they had some pretty bizarre injuries. One appeared to have bitten off part of his own knuckle, one had a fractured skull. Another had a twisted neck, one was missing 2 eyes, and another was missing a tongue. As expected, the theories that emerged to explain the mysterious death are as wild as can be. From claims of Yeti attack to theories about brutal predators lurking within the Ural Mountains, historians and conspiracy theorists have proposed several theories to explain what really happened on that fateful day in 1959, but the truth remains elusive. Number 3. Giant crocodiles. Did you know that the mountainous region of northeastern British Columbia used to be inhabited by monstrous giant crocodiles? According to recent findings, archaeologists believe that some 82 million years ago, a special breed of crocodiles, which may have been twice as large as their modern predecessors, dominated this region. But unlike many other archaeological discoveries, no actual skeletons or mummified remains were found. Instead, researchers uncovered swim traces made when the crocodiles scraped the muddy bottom of lakes and river channels with their claws. These swim traces are incredibly well preserved, and some of them show remarkable details such as the scale patterns on the crocodile feet. Scientists believe that the giant crocodile measured about 40 feet in length and weighed around 5 tons, which means it was most likely a top predator feared by every creature in the region. While it is hard to determine what exactly was responsible for their extinction, archaeologists believe that changing climate conditions must have played a key role in cutting these crocodiles out of the evolution tree. Number 2. Skeletons of Rudrakund Lake. High up in the Himalayas lies a glacial lake known as the Rudrakund Lake. It's also known as the Mystery Lake or the Skeleton Lake, thanks to the hundreds of human skeletons that have been found at its edge. These mysterious skeletons often emerge in the summer months when the lake melts, and it might just be one of the most eerie sights on Earth. An air of mystery also surrounds the identity of the people buried here. Were they World War II soldiers who got caught in a natural disaster, ancient explorers who were struck by a violent hailstorm, or was the story even more sinister than these? Till today, scientists haven't reached a unanimous conclusion on the origin of these skeletons, some of which have been dated to around 800 AD. Since the lake was rediscovered in 1942, archaeologists have pored over the place, retrieving human remains, wooden artifacts, iron spearheads, and leather slippers, but no one can really explain where they came from. According to local legend, though, the remains belong to the crew of an ancient king called Raja Jastaval, who traveled through the area with his pregnant wife Rani Balampa along with a dance troupe. As the story goes, the group was on a pilgrimage to the Nanda Devi shrine when huge hailstones started raining down. Sadly, neither the king, his wife, nor his men made it out of the valley alive, and their bodies were buried forever in Rudrakund Lake. Number 1. Ancient City of Petra. Scattered across our planet are lost cities from thousands of years ago like Pompeii, Machu Picchu, and of course the city of Petra in modern-day Jordan. Carved directly into the vibrant red, white, pink, and sandstone cliff faces, the incredible ancient city of Petra was lost to the rest of the world for thousands of years. Historians believe it was built around the 3rd century BC by the Nabateans, who carved palaces, temples, and massive structures out of the soft stone cliffs. Instead of being built in the mountains, the structures were built from the mountains, much like the LaBella rock churches we talked about earlier in this video. For many years, the city of Petra served as a thriving trading capital between 400 BC and 106 AD. But suddenly everything fell silent in this city, and it gradually became desolate. From a thriving commerce center, the city of Petra quietly transformed into an enigmatic piece of ancient history. A structure that continues to evoke awe and wonder. To honor its secret and legacy, UNESCO declared the Petra Archaeological Park a World Heritage Site in 1985, and in 2007 it took its place as one of the new 7 wonders of the world.